Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very quickly recorded episode of Play, Watch, Listen. I was not going to make any kind of intro to this episode, but I realized there are two things that I need to say. The first is that this whole episode we talk about a tweet, and I realized that we never actually read the tweet at any point, meaning that anyone who didn't know about it, who wasn't on Twitter or missed the news, is going to be very confused by this episode. So let me take the time to actually read the tweet to you. Troy Baker tweeted this at 10:02 p.m., January 13, 2022, and the tweet says, "I'm partnering with Voiceverse NFT to explore ways where together we might bring new tools to new creators to make new things and allow everyone a chance to own and invest in the IPs they create. We all have a story to tell. You can hate or you can create. What'll it be?" He's attached a JPEG to it. It's some sort of art of him. It looks, I don't know, NFT in style. And the tweet has a tremendous amount of engagement. It has 11.2 thousand quote tweets and 1,891 likes. And he is trending on Twitter in a number of countries, I believe. The second thing is that I've only just now discovered this, literally a second before recording this. There are some more very negative, very damning allegations about the company that Troy referenced in the tweet that have come out. But I wanted to give the context that I did not know about any of this, and I imagine the others didn't, though I cannot speak on their behalf as we haven't spoken about it. But I personally did not know about any of these things before we recorded this, regrettably, or of course I would have loved to have brought it up, but that seems to have come out a little bit later than this conversation that we had started. But that is it to the episode.
I also want to hand it to you, Alanah, because at first I'll be honest, I got a little afraid. I was like, man, when you said you wanted to do kind of like a little disclaimer, I was like, man, I don't burn me, all right, on this, because there's no malice here, and there's so much other conversation about this and facts that we could do.
So
but
my intention was just to say, hey, this was recorded earlier in the week.
Well, especially the goofy podcast that we ended up doing.
It was a very,
I was
very
going to title it
podcast.
something to do with Wordle.
Yeah. It's like,
It's just weird, but it's also like, and this is part of it that feels very strange, is like I've so publicly been against NFTs to the extent that I was like, I should stop tweeting about this because it's a bit much. I was like, I need to pipe down on my anti-NFT tweets that people are asking me for a statement. They're like, you need to speak up about how you feel about NFTs. I'm like, just scroll my Twitter timeline for 5 minutes and you've got that. But it does feel like something that I'm like, okay, I guess the association is enough that and again, this is a show where we've never even pretended that we have the same opinions, but people are still asking me for it. So I was like, I would like to say,
can I just point out how unfair it is? Like, this is external to the issue we're obviously talking about, but it is incredibly unreasonable how no one has asked me to have a public statement about this.
Really? Fucking hell. Yeah. I just assumed it would happen to all of you.
Are you upset about that a little bit, Mike?
No, that's not the point I'm making, Troy.
No
the point
one's
I'm
asking
making
me
is
if I want to
the point I'm making is when these things happen, and when there's, let's say, splash damage, but that might be too strong, but like splash thing, it tends to fall down on the women who
For
are close.
sure it does. I should have fucking known.
So I think that aspect of it's worth pointing out, that like, if you're someone who wanted Alanah's take on this and not mine, then it's worth questioning. Also, Alanah's much more interesting than me, and that's also a reasonable reason to do it.
I mean, it's probably that,
saying,
yeah.
It is probably that.
You're not wrong.
It's a little thing I noticed.
But in any case, my intention was like, I was still going to publish the episode, but I was just going to be like, hey, this is recorded on Tuesday, but also, just so everybody knows, I'm still very against NFTs, and I would still like to tweet something, but I did want... There's the fine line of me like wanting to tell you, Troy, I really still want to tweet just so everybody knows I still fucking hate NFTs, but I wanted to tell you before I did that so it didn't seem like a slight at you. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, your tweet is still a slight at me though. You can hate or you can create is technically a direct insult to every person you know who has spoken out against them. And that's like a difficult thing that's why people are so fucking mad at you. Because I know other people who are publicly involved in NFTs and people are like, shut up, bro. This one's a bit different.
Yeah, that's, man, you nailed it on the head, and especially for me, the importance is that unintentional or not, it's still hurtful. It's hurtful not necessarily to people. It's hurtful for the conversation, because like you said, it's like, hey, either you, and this was not the intention. The intention was,
because I can guess what you would have meant by it. Is the dumb thing.
Of
it's like
course.
I can guess. I know you though.
That's the thing, is that you know me, but the fact is I don't know 450,000 people, you know. So, but this is being broadcast out to those people. I have to be responsible about that, and I have to be like, And this is the problem. We just finished watching Peacemaker, and so I was feeling, I was like, let's have fun with this. I was in a fun place, and I was like, look, there's a lot of hate about this, and my desire is to create. So what do you want to do here? Do we want to do this, or do we want to create? I was trying to be inspiring, as opposed to
That's what I figured. I was like, he's trying to inspire people. It doesn't come off that way.
But it didn't at all. So
sorry, Troy, to cut
Go
you off.
ahead.
I think that was the issue as well, was that it kind of mirrors a lot of the framing that's used by crypto bros, the evangelists who are kind of pushing this stuff. Will
Right.
be to kind of basically to dismiss anyone, and we've seen it in our own comments section, right? When we talked about it, like to dismiss anyone who doesn't agree with this
Even
idea.
if they have more experience or expertise.
Even if they have more experience, know the systems they're talking about more, are programmers, they will dismiss those people as ignorant. And I think that's what you maybe tripped into there is that is the go-to terminology of the worst proponents for this technology.
Yeah, and that's so antithetical to who I am, which people don't necessarily believe. They think that I can't take criticism, and the truth is, my job is to take criticism. My
true.
job
Actors,
is
whole
to be
trade.
told not only how to do what I do, but how what I'm doing is not right and how I should do it better. So if I couldn't do that, I'm pretty successful at my job. So I've learned how to do that, and I believe that the reason why someone's telling me how to do something better is because it is better, is because it is going to get to a better result. So that's what I'm sifting through right now. Everything is, I'm hearing the conversations from Mike or with you and other people that are coming out to me going, dude, just to let you know, there's a few things that you should be asking. And what's so funny is, this shows my ignorance. While I understood that an NFT was a component to this, that's not what I got involved with. I don't know how I feel about NFTs. Someone presented a platform to me that said, hey, here's a tool that we're going to be able to bring valuable resources to creators, independent creators who want to work in animation and video games or other applications. I was like, fuck yeah, I want to be a part of that, because that's the problem.
A thing that I've seen a couple of people tweet about is like, Troy's making his own job redundant. What an idiot. And I was like, well, to be clear, he's worked with this technology before. This is not the first time that you've had interest in this particular kind of technology. I think you also confused people with the image. They thought that you were selling images as NFTs.
That was the stupidest thing I could have done. Is they sent that to me. It was like, hey, if you want to use this, be great. I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun. Dumbass. For me to put the picture up, was
You're also
misleading
frozen
to people.
right now. Oh no, you're back.
It
was not a great post.
I want on the NFT.
You're having internet problems
If
for
that
sure.
still happens, that's the image that should be on.
So, Troy, to dial back, can I just
Yeah, yeah.
ask you, like, okay, I am a friend of yours, and I think NFTs are trash, and I think they're exploitative, and I think they're entirely for profit. That is my stance, and I think your tweet sucks. But I did want to ask, like, what is this thing? Like, I still don't have that context. I've seen their tweets, which are obviously like a company that's clearly terrified, but I still don't understand from your perspective what is this Voiceverse NFT? What is it?
Making sure that I don't, nothing that they told me was proprietary or confidential, and everything they have is up on their site. This company came to me and was like, hey, we've created we're an AI company that's creating text to speech, but we wanted to make it, no robo voices. And we also know that that's typically a very bespoke, boutique, higher end tool that's reserved for top tier studios. And we want to make this available to independent creators and people who may not necessarily be able to afford that. And we're looking for people to be able to supply voices for that system. Would you be interested in that? And I was like, yes. And we had a conversation about how does it, we've been going back for weeks about this. So this wasn't like some fly by night person came to me, and this was like, it was methodical. And which shows that even being methodical, there's still blind spots for this, for me and for my whole team. Which I have to give credit to my agent. She was like, I don't know how I feel about this one. And there's a lot of people that was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I was like, if the mitigated risk is that people don't like what I do, I'm used to that. But they don't know. I'm not going to sit here and virtue signal. They have no idea like what the intention that I have behind this was like, hey, if somebody, some independent game maker wants to have me in their game and they can't afford me and they can do that now, great. And he can own the rights to this and own that in perpetuity. That's the problem, right? Artists not being supported for their art. That's what I wanted to do. I was like, this is great.
So again, this is something that I've seen you speak about on before, that I think we've spoken about on the podcast before. And I've even seen an NDA'd video game where they sort of do this with your voice. But I think the question I have is like from that angle or the way that they tweeted things is, does that not mean that people can just make you say whatever they want with your voice? Is that not an issue?
Sure, but I can do that right now. Like, trust me, if you want to do, you can find me saying some stuff that I did not say, did not want to say, or would never say. So
that's my face is on porn, so yeah, they are already doing that.
And it's like,
isn't, and I think as a society, please don't take that as an invitation.
Mine's not.
Are you okay, Mike?
My face on porn.
I feel left out.
For me, the problem is that they always put it on a body that's better looking than mine. I'm like, fuck. Well, I want that.
I don't have that problem. It's not an issue.
So I mean, and for me, it's if I can do that, that's what I wanted to do. And someone said, well, you're going to put yourself out of a job. My agent said that. She's like, are you not afraid of putting yourself out of a job? It's like, if this thing can put me out of a job, then it was always going to happen. We can't put the genie back in the bottle. You know what I mean? So what I want to do is I always want to work towards a solution that is bettering. And Mike and I had a great conversation about some of the pitfalls, and I understand. I don't think people are being vitriolic for no reason. I think that there's a lot of this that has tremendous merit. And so I've reached out to the company, and I'm asking this, and we're continuing that conversation. I don't know what's going to happen. I told them that very specifically. But what I do want to make sure that I'm doing is that the intention that I had is preserved, which is to help independent creators. That still is there. I want to be able to do that. And if this is an avenue for me to do that, great. If it's not, I want to find that avenue because I do still believe in that. And if the only reason why I don't do something to help somebody out is because it may hurt me, that's a fucked up reason to not do the right thing. So if that means you can help somebody, but that means you're not going to get something out of it, that's pretty shitty of me. So if I lose out of a job by giving somebody else one, how does that make me an asshole?
I've had that my whole life. I've had people be like, you're giving people too much help. I'm like, I don't care. What?
I don't. So I think the technology itself is interesting. Like me and you have had conversations like offline about like, again, similarly NDA stuff. You know.
Yeah, I've spoken to you before about it as well, Mike. And I also think that like it's an interesting thing for if you're writing scripts for video games. That it's a lot better than the regular robo voice.
I think it's interesting. I can absolutely understand, and I think they're utterly reasonable. The kind of the concerns around, especially like less experienced voice actors, maybe kind of losing out work. The good news is these technologies are all shit, which makes it a lot easier from that perspective. And sorry, apologies. These technologies in general, I am at no point in this podcast going to make a statement about the specific partner that Troy is working with. Any criticisms applied will be
certainly not sponsored by.
I'm not going to talk about any specific company in particular because unfortunately, generally NFT companies can be very litigious, but not specific ones. Anyway.
That's so happy. Yes.
My point is, the technology itself, like most technology, is without ethics until it's used. And I do think your desire here to as you say, use your voice or give your voice as something that can be used in certain contexts for game developers is great. I think the issue is specifically the NFT component, which is completely unnecessary. Like, and in terms
strongly agree. And I just want to ask one question before we get into the NFT side of it, which
I'm going to get so
I'm sure we both have
this.
plenty to say about. So, Troy, can I ask you just completely candidly, and maybe it's the association that I have in my brain with NFTs. No part of your interest in this was profit?
Was I paid or profit?
Did you think that working with this company, or was part of your motive for working with them that you thought that you would tremendously profit?
No, honestly. Am I making money off it? Yes, but this is not. This is why I can do stuff like this, is because if it goes great, fine. But I'm not betting on the come here. This isn't this could be a new revenue stream for me. This is because I have no idea how it functions, and it could not work out at all, and it could. We even had that conversation. It's like, what does this look like long term? They're like, let's see if this works. If
NFT companies don't tend to have long term conversations.
True.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, they were like, if this thing proves to be successful, then we can have an ongoing conversation. I was like, okay. And again, I hope that my desire is not to break any kind of NDA, but these were conversations that were had with under no auspices of being NDA'd. And I'm sure they would not, I don't know, they wouldn't mind me sharing that with you. But no, the whole thing was not like, ooh, I'm going to get rich quick. That's not what I do. I keep my head down and I work really hard at my job. And I'm always looking, this is so weird. We had a conversation with our financial planner because I started very, very late in life. And if I could offer one bit of unsolicited advice, whether people want to hear it or not right now, is no matter how old you are, no matter how much you have, just especially if you live in the United States, please put something away for your retirement. Just small amounts. It could be $5. It's very, very expensive to grow old and die in this country. And most people do not have any plan in place whatsoever for doing that. And I've been, especially this last year, there's been a lot of people where that has become a very real component to their life. And so I started very, very late in life. And so I'm hustling right now to make sure that if something were to happen to me or something that happens to Pam, Traveler's looked after. It has nothing to do with my wealth. It has everything to do with making sure that that kid gets every opportunity that he deserves. So that is what guides every decision that I make. Is this good for my family? Is this good for him? Is he going to benefit from this? And I have no idea if I'm going to have another job ever again. This year is looking good. We have some great things that are lined up, and I'm excited about that. But beyond that, I have no idea. And so I want to make sure that I am investing in my future, but it has never had anything to do. And this would not be it. Like I have a mutual fund, and my financial planner has stuff in place for that. And that everything we do, I've even talked about this. Is like, hey man, do we get into crypto? He goes, absolutely not. That's not your growth plan. He goes, your growth plan is slow and moderate. And so everything that we're designed for right now is being very conservative and not getting into weird new things. And so I get to do that creatively, whether it's be with music or whether it be with games or whether it be with companies that say, hey, we've got a new technology that could maybe help new creators. I'm like,
so this is not something that would have come into the financial plan as the idea. Is like, that's what I thought. I was like, either Troy has been swindled by passionate people, because I can see Troy being swindled by passionate people speaking about new technology passionately, or he's trying to make a lot of money. But I guess your answer is neither of those two. It is.
But Alanah, you'd back me up in saying that swindled by you're speaking in the abstract there. You're not accusing any specific company of swindling.
Yes, in theory.
By the way,
not as much of an issue in the US, though, I don't think.
Oh, okay, that's true. Yeah, sorry, apologies.
I
seem over defensive. It's because I'm British, and yeah, you've got to be very careful. Yeah.
At least with libel.
We have a wandering Austin that appeared
welcome,
as well.
Austin.
Hey, Austin.
You know, I was having to deal with check engine lights and getting my car smog tested, and I thought, what could be more fun than this?
Watching my friend set the world on fire.
Well, and yourself. Like I said, I texted Austin. I was like, I don't know that tweet's going to go down super well for you.
You know what?
I thought I was tempted to just drop into this conversation, make a sarcastic comment, and bounce out and see how that goes.
No.
I have to say that today, and I made tweets with Alanah about this, so I may just not do anything. But today has been very revelatory in a lot of ways, and one of the things that I've learned today is that I may have lost a lot of followers, but I haven't lost a single friend. And there are some days where
you could. It's like if you started pushing this shit hard, I'd be like, buddy. Like the fact that you're willing to talk about it will help you there, but like there are massive consequences to NFTs, I think. And
if friends came to me and pointed out to me the error of my ways, and I didn't heed that, and that it would not be me that would be losing a friend; they would lose a friend. Like they would. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
you take responsibility. Then
I would have to take responsibility. I'm the asshole in that component. But what this has shown me today is that there are people that, and listen, this is the beauty of social media, and I hope everybody out there hears this, is that if there's conversations you don't want to be a part of, then get out of them. And if there's something that I'm talking about that nobody wants to talk about, get out of it. It's fine. I appreciate the unfollow. It's not I'm saying unfollow me, baby. I hope that somebody would want to come to me and have a conversation with me. And a lot of people have. They're like, hey, man, just hope that you're really doing like what Mike did. I hope you're doing the due diligence on this and that you change your mind about this because of this. There's a lot of people that reached out to me via text. And that to me is a far more personal thing. But I'm not an idiot, and I'm not. I don't know everything, but I do try to do as much. I'm not an idiot, but I sure am dumb sometimes, and I'm trying to learn. And if there's anybody that wants to hold my feet to the fire for trying to be smarter, that's not a friend. So my friends have showed up for me today, and a lot of them have called me out, and a lot of them have just offered support, and a lot of them have said, we've seen you do dumb stuff before, but I don't know if this is a dumb thing. I'm just wanting to find out more information. So hopefully everyone out there can be patient, and if you don't want to be patient, totally fine. The one thing I will say is my family's off limits.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking around about that. So
I think that's completely reasonable.
It is reasonable. It's also unreasonable for people to say stuff about my family. So leave my boy out of this.
Mike, I cut you off on what I expected to be a very exciting, spicy rant, but I don't remember exactly.
Please
what
be
you
a spicy rant.
It wasn't a particularly spicy rant.
How would you like your rant today? Medium spicy, please.
Let's have a sip of Fanta to cool my mouth. It's a Fanta night, as I said to you all.
I know. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
We're past coffee and Pepsi at this point.
By the way, if you don't know, that's kind of like Mike doing mushrooms.
That is the extreme. No, all I was going to say, and I guess it's trying to be trying to be productive with it, because obviously, yes, we chatted earlier, and I don't think anyone on the or anyone watching this podcast would be unsurprised that I'm not a massive fan of the NFT technology. But the thing I wanted to point out, I guess, was your stated aim, your goal here of like, I want to be a part of these kind of pieces of technology that can, theoretically help developers and, get your voice into other things that maybe you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't have the time, you wouldn't have the energy, they wouldn't be able to afford you, whatever. Like it opens you up to other people. I think that's genuinely like a good, positive thing. I think what's interesting here, and again, it's something that consistently comes up with the NFT conversation, whereby the people who make these tools and platforms don't actually know how video games are made, and therefore massively underestimate or overestimate the amount of work required in order to do anything. With development tools, it's not going to surprise anyone in the audience. It's like opening your email. You have a username, you have a password, you have two-factor authentication if you're smart, and you just develop using tools in that way. And there are other tools which use similar technologies, text-to-speech with specific actors and things, which are essentially paid for with licensing, or something that is accessible and something that can be used without the enormous kind of negatives of NFTs that are super open. And I'd encourage you, and we can chat about this offline, Troy, but like there are lots of companies that do that without needing to incorporate the element here that I think people, I don't think a large portion of the audience is, I've seen criticisms from voice actors, but I've not seen a massive frustrated audience about that component. I think there is a way of doing that in a way that is ethical from like an environmental point of view. That's absolutely something you could go, and I think if the goal you have is to achieve that outcome you said, I think there are ways of which is good news, right? There are ways of doing that which haven't.
Yeah, I mean, how do NFTs even really help this?
It's proof of ownership, right? So it's essentially, it's like a login. That's the only reason you'd need an NFT in this tag. And it's the other thing, sorry, that's quickly worth mentioning. And again, not talking about the specific company. With an if any NFT, this is just a bit of consumer advice. If any NFT you're thinking of buying is actually allowing you access to a server-based technology, so something like voice generation, for example, which would require server-side tech, that NFT will only function and work as long as the company that provides that service is in business or is running that server. So you do not own anything in that occasion. You don't get, with a JPEG, if you buy a JPEG, knock yourself out, you're going to be able to own that JPEG in the same way as I can own that JPEG. Have a great time. But when your NFT is access to a server, you're not buying permanent anything. And there's no, it's not incumbent upon the.
I get that the blockchain is, and I think blockchain technology specifically is interesting, not NFTs. I get that the blockchain is a public ledger, but even when it comes to JPEGs, aren't they still just hosted on a server that still has the ability to go down?
You're right, but the difference is you can grab a JPEG, download it, and you have exactly what's on the server.
I mean, that's true.
If it's a process where you're generating something, today you want Troy to say I don't know, something racist for the internet.
Everybody goes to that, by the way. There's never been a deviation. There's the one thing that you like, what if you say that you hate? I was like, whatever.
We've been on the internet, Troy. That's why. But no, the point is, like, someone gets something generated now with Troy's voice. That requires them to upload a bit of text. Some stuff happens on the cloud, on the server. They get the audio file back. If the thing on the server's not there, you can never get new stuff. You can keep the WAV file you got of Troy saying an awful word, but you can't like get more stuff going forward. So the service is not ongoing. Now, and to be clear, the same is true of every other service you can use.
Company could still take it down at any point. That's the thing about that blows my mind the most about like the NFT conversations is a lot of it's like, oh, but I can buy this thing and own it indefinitely until they don't support it. Like there's no the blockchain doesn't fix these problems.
To be fair, this is also true of any other service. The only difference is
that they're pretending to.
When I buy a Unity license, no one at Unity says, by the way, you will own this forever.
Right.
Like there's not that lie. Even when you buy a DVD, it has a little flyer in the box that says, this is, the legal stuff over here, Alanah, because you mention it every now and again, the legalese of you don't really own this film or whatever. It's always printed in the box. There's an inherent kind of, from NFT companies in general, dishonesty around how that's presented.
Isn't there a basic level of consumer protection that's possible there, though, that basically says if I buy like a user agreement, basically, that essentially says I recognize that if your servers go down, like that is a known scenario, which would, whether that's like this, the simple layman's answer would be, that there's like a refund, like a transfer of title back kind of thing. Like, isn't that solvable through something in that? I'm not saying that exists.
It would be if the law was applicable to any of these items.
Yeah, from my...
I don't mean enforceable necessarily. I don't mean that is a legal... I don't mean like consumer protection in the sense of a government agency. I just mean in the sense that can't that be something that is insisted upon as a like user license agreement?
Yes, but I think the NFT fans currently are trying to suggest, because it helps with the shilling of NFTs, that is just not a problem with their particular technology. Like they're like, we don't need this. You own it no matter what. The blockchain is the thing that they keep defaulting to because they don't want to admit that could potentially be a problem. At least that's my perspective. And I think it's also that a lot of these companies right now are effectively operating like startups. So there aren't just a lot of regulations. Like if there were to be some government level consumer protections, I don't think that they've hit the NFT companies or any of the blockchain yet, really. It's just not there yet.
And the reality is it's against a company's interest to tell you if they don't have to.
True.
No, that's why I was saying it would have to be an insisted upon part, like on the part of the consumer. I'm not proclaiming that exists, or even that it could exist, and that could be a fatal flaw of this. But I was just thing is,
what you're saying makes perfect sense and sounds awesome. And I think the reason that they aren't doing that again is that they would then have to admit that things aren't permanent just because they're on the blockchain.
But things can't be hidden forever. This is where it's so the last 12 hours or what, not even what is so. Forgive me, I have no clue what the first 20 minutes of your conversation consisted of, but
drinking Fanta.
I've been drinking Fanta. I'm on to my third bottle. It's
I've got
a multi-pack over here. That's not true at all. I'll tell you what's non-fungible, my diet.
Nice.
What is so...
Didn't even make any sense.
It's not a revelation, but what's just such an interesting spotlight on the way that I operate relative to apparently lots of other people is I like to ask questions and be curious and to learn things. And it is interesting how every now and again, things will flip a switch that just invalidates all forms of that immediately.
So I've said this to Troy already, and apologies for just saying this again, but I think that Troy himself prevented that by saying you can hate or you can create. He himself said, I will not be taking any questions. You're a hater. I don't want to hear it. By tweeting.
Well,
that.
it's not only.
I know you wouldn't have done that intentionally.
No. But it's more than. I would take it a step further. It's not. I will not be taking any questions. It is if you
ask a question.
If you ask a question,
you're a hater.
Yeah. So this is, and what's so funny is that's so antithetical to me that had I given it a second look, I probably would have gone, and I even looked at it, I was like, nah, it'll keep it light. It'll keep it fun.
That's the thing. That's how I read it. Like I looked at
again,
it and I was,
but Troy.
You're his friend. Like,
even I read that and was like, I know,
that.
I think this is one of the stupidest fucking tweets I've ever read, Troy. But even
that's a step too far because you've read some stupid fucking
that is
tweets.
True. People have said some shit to me. But in any case, I was still like, I know what Troy was trying to say, but I do not fault anyone else for not knowing that because it's such a specific Troy way to communicate that like I don't think it should have been assumed that everyone else would understand what he was trying to do there.
I guess just for me, I will never empathize with the instinct that says this is maybe not meant for levity. Therefore, a pox on
it doesn't read as a joke. It doesn't read as a joke. It's
but
not,
even if it's not, like
it sounds like I agree. Nobody should be sending him death threats or saying that they want him to die. The scale of this has surprised me, but I don't think it's that people are reading it. Yeah, you're still trending. I don't think that people are reading it as how dare you make a joke about NFTs. People are reading it as you are selling a scam that is hurting the environment, and you have the audacity to call me a hater when I would even preemptively before I've even criticized you. Yeah. He's attacked everybody who disagrees from the jump.
Look, I'm not a fan of false dichotomies, but still, even the way you phrased it just then is a far more, even keeled, just sort of like it's. I mean, look, it's. I know it sounds like I'm describing that I've never heard of Twitter and how people act. Like that. It's not that way. It just still always baffles me because it's just. I don't know what it would take for me to send a message like, even my stupid little joke got piled on.
Yeah, yours was Troy's was not surprising to me. Yours was like a.
And look, I'm not
super clearly joking.
And I'm not trying to be a victim or anything. It's just been hilarious that I look at it and I go,
here's
settle
something
down, folks.
Here's something that I realized today is that Twitter doesn't have a maximum of 248 characters. It has, or 240 characters. It has a maximum of 258 because tacitly to everything I post, there is the what do you think attached to it. Like I understand if I post something, I can't just expect someone to not comment on that. So
but go ahead. Isn't what everyone did today tell you what they think?
100%.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's why I can't get mad. It's ridiculous for me to go, what do you think? Well, I don't want to hear what you have to think.
By tweeting it, you're asking their opinions. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm putting it out there. I'm showing my ass, and someone's going to go, you're showing your ass. Or and by the way, the clear distinction right now, and man, I'm really glad. Look, I have made a career out of failure. And let's just put it all in perspective, guys. I'm used to getting hate. I did the Silent Hill 2 remake. All right? I'm used to this. But the thing that I learned today is that it's okay to fuck up. It's okay to make a failure. To sit in that and not do anything. If I didn't go, well, people can think what they're going to think. There's no growth from that at all. So the thing that I'm most grateful for is that whether they're friends or just followers, whether they're people that just happen to come across it because someone else retweeted or whatever, to point out is like, hey man, let me tell you what you just did by saying this. The perfect example. I had this time where I was trying to be more optimistic, and I was trying to decatastrophize my own language. By not saying it was a nightmare. I was devastated. I was saying I'm challenged right now. I'm being stretched right now because I was finding myself, it wasn't good for my mental health, and it was perpetuating myself into this negative space. I was trying to be more optimistic. So if somebody said something negative to me, I would say, cool. Oh man, okay, cool. Like, I understand, I'm here with you, but I'm not trying to go, oh, that's fucking the worst thing I've ever heard before, because I was trying to decatastrophize. The problem is that I said that to someone who had just lost their daughter. And she goes, I'm really having a hard time right now, and I'm struggling, and I have to go plan a funeral. I was like, okay, cool. And that did not land well. And now I look back and I was like, what I was trying to do, where I was trying to make that person in the same place. And so saying, I hear you, I understand. Tell me how you feel. okay is a much better thing to say than cool. So I had to change my vernacular. So today was a good opportunity for me to learn where my vernacular and the way that I'm phrasing things, regardless of the intention behind it, I have to still be responsible for what is said, where it is said, and to whom it is said. And so to everybody out there, regardless of what you said, I want you to know that I really I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for the opportunity to learn, to hopefully, this is what I've tried to do my entire life, is learn how to tell my story better, learn how to speak better. And I learn new words, and I get shit for it sometimes, but I want to do that because I just want to learn how to effectively communicate. And so today I really recognize the fact that me trying to do that was just a fucking bad look. And everyone who said that was a shitty thing to say, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I apologize for that. I wish that I had phrased it differently. And I welcome people's thoughts about this. I want to learn more about this technology. I want to learn more about this space. I want to learn more about how people feel about this.
Well, that's part of it that I wasn't sure of until talking to you now. This tweet is not actually intended to be in support of NFTs. You were working with this company and you still don't really even know that much about NFTs, but you weren't working with them because of the NFT component.
I was working with them because they have a platform that I like that is being able to. I said specifically, I was like, I want to make sure that we're clear. Like that what I'm into this for is the fact that you have a platform that can give resources to independent creators, and they were like, yeah. I was like, nah, I want to be a part of that, and
it struck me as the exact same as the Tina Guo sample library. Like it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Or comparable at least.
What is that?
So like for composers, you buy these sample libraries that let you kind of create, a fake orchestra or electronically rendered versions of real instruments. And in the old days, it was, done with synthesizers. And then they started creating samples where you literally record like a violin, one note at a time. And then when I play it on my keyboard, it's calling all those recordings in real time. That's cool. How sample libraries work. And so somebody started to realize we can make branded ones of these. And so like the cellist that I work with, Tina Guo, they took her into the studio and recorded, her on her cello, one note at a time. It takes days. It's really tedious work, but you can go buy on cinesamples.com. You can buy the Tina Guo sample library, and it's really her playing. And people looked at her and go, aren't you basically eliminating your own work? And it's like the people that are going to use this probably couldn't afford to hire me. And also like she uses these tools herself because she's also a composer. So she was like, I also don't really like most cello sample libraries. So I'm going to try to bring something to market that I think improves on what's out there. And then all these people will be able to use my sound in a vastly, and I went from having 10 clients to 10,000 in a sense.
Ask an academic question based on that, actually. Given that so samples like samplings existed like that for what, decades? Yeah. Do modern musicians dislike it? Are there people who are like, this is taking away jobs from musicians?
Surely there are some.
They always say that, but I don't know that there's much evidence of that. I mean, it's hard to say because the kinds of productions that use samples, like a lot of TV, never records a live orchestra. They just use the samples because they're like, we don't have the time, first and foremost, because we have to like score an episode in 3 days, but also
COVID, right? Where all of a sudden you
COVID
can't
was
record
another,
musicians.
like. There's always circumstances, but it's definitely stratified by budget. But the great thing is, like Spitfire.
Presumably it changed the industry though, right? Presumably that invention or the first time they sold it, that would have messed up. Well, messed up implies a negative. Altered the economics on like a global scale of the music industry.
And it also made it available to other people, like who nobody could do.
But it's understandable why that would, be intimidating or scary to the voice acting community in the same way, right? Like it's understandable that they would see that coming.
It's far and away a net positive because you go from, the reality is instead of fewer people hiring voice actors, it's more games incorporating voice. Like, I just think, there's a lot of games that would say, we don't have a viable way to hire anyone, but we have like the Banner Saga was one where they said, we're going to go text because voice is completely impractical given the sheer amount of lines we've got. Like, to me, those
certainly been in those conversations for sure.
Yeah, like not to derail.
I was in a meeting about this, not at SMS, but a meeting about this literally last week with a studio who was like, we don't want to use the robo voice, but it's not a good use of our time to have people in-house record all the dialogue. What are our options? So I get that. And I also understand like smaller voice actors' concerns with it too. I imagine that similar for the composing community, like I would guess people are split on it. Some people like it and some people don't.
It's just, I don't see now. I can't speak for what's going to happen 10 years from now, 5 years from now. But if you're wondering if this is going to take that job away from you, there's a larger concern at play, because you can't. If you're banking on that job that this could potentially take away from you to make your rent, you're living too high from the ground. Like there's far other more concerning questions that you need to have at play. I say that because that's me too. If I'm waiting, if I don't have the ability to sustain myself, if I don't get another job, I better go out and get a different job. I got fucking a family to feed.
It's the equivalent of saying if there is a machine learning algorithm that can analyze a screenplay and then really viably write a new one derived from that, if a screenwriter looks at that and goes, "You took my job," it's like your job is to be better than that. Is the thing. And
I'm uncomfortable. I think the four of us on this call should. It's tricky for us to comment on like what things are like at the just starting out stage of all our careers, right? Because we're all quite far removed. Obviously, have name brands and
hold on,
are not as we're not impervious, but we're more removed from the kind of automation that presumably is coming for our kinds of jobs.
I would agree. We are not specifically in competition with that automation where other people may be.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, see, I'm not entirely sure that that's the case.
Maybe I am, because in some ways the reticle's more on me than anybody else, because
Troy, you say something daft on Twitter and it trends for 12 hours. You have a audience, right?
I have an audience, and the point that I'm making is that they're not where it's like any company when there's big change. You never fire like the middle management. You fire the most expensive. That's where the change happens. And so the person that the producers by and large are looking for is like, how can we get away from hiring someone like Troy Baker, who's really expensive, versus that guy doesn't cost that much. He's a negligible amount, or she's not going to be as expensive. So what I'm saying is if they're trying to bring anybody's cost down, it's not that person, it's me. So I agree. My job is to not be better than anything. My job is to be the solution to the problem. And if it comes to the point to where it's like, Troy, you're too expensive, you're too used, you're not good enough, the industry has changed and we're not hiring dudes like you anymore, then this industry owes me nothing. There's no job that I am owed or deserve. Everything that I've been given, I've worked my ass for, and someone has been kind enough to give me an opportunity. Period. I don't deserve shit. What I deserve, and if anything else today showed you, I deserve shit. But anybody that gives me anything after that is grace, and I would much rather err on the side of that. So my job is, I use this analogy a lot. Use cynicism, sure, or skepticism.
No, skepticism, criticism. I just can't abide bad faith takes from folks.
Do you think they are?
I know. I know. It's
my job to abide.
I'm fighting human nature, but it bothers me when people are.
Sure.
I didn't see everything Troy received. I don't think any
some of
human could process that.
Fucking
some
awful.
Of it, no, and to be clear, anyone sending threats or whatever, fuck you. But most of the takes I saw on the subject, I didn't see many what I would call bad faith arguments thrown Troy's way. I saw people either people sending him personal abuse, which is pointless, or people who were raising, and I saw a lot of people raising kind of the standard kind of reasonable concerns about this technology, right? I wouldn't say it was bad faith.
I'm not making a blanket statement that therefore all the takes were bad takes either. I'm just saying those that were I have a I don't know. It's a soft spot when I just don't like when people don't engage, that when people want to talk more than listen and assert an opinion that they don't actually, they're not interested in anything remotely approaching dialogue. And I get that social media, especially Twitter above all, is especially inconducive to that. So like, I recognize that I sound just like some weird blend of a naive child and
who's never seen Twitter before. I mean, so as I said before, I think there are two sides to this, that I do think that again, I think I don't want to like go on this too hard, but I think what Troy said is hostile. He is starting the hostile conversation. So hostile responses come from that.
Disagree with
yeah.
me, baby might have been a better sign off.
Yeah.
100%. Well, first of all, man, there's so many different drafts of this. Trust me that I could think of.
I bet you've thought of all of them.
That would be
in the last
far
12
better.
hours, yeah.
There's other, I don't know, man.
I don't know that we need to even talk about the tweet part of it any more than we have. I think, like, yeah, if people are threatening your family, they can go fuck themselves no matter what you say. Yeah. Like, absolutely fuck that. But I do also think that treating people... Austin, I think your discomfort with the bad faith is like, I feel like Troy's tweet is in bad faith and thus is being...
How so?
With those responses, I think you can hate or you can create is...
Oh, that part. Oh, sorry. I just want to make sure because I didn't think that was the bad faith.
It's probably not the right way to say it, but I mean in the same bracket in terms of conversation, it serves the same purpose as the bad faith tweets in terms of encouraging
I can fully acknowledge that. I can agree that the phrasing made it easy, I suspect, to have a bad faith response.
Just bullseye. Just like right here.
Fair enough. I think.
What were the kind of bad faith responses you saw, Austin?
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, I'm terrible at recalling off the top of my head that which as soon as I saw, thought, I wish I'd never seen that. But the kinds of things where someone would say things like, well, this is the joking one that I saw. So I fully acknowledge this is a horrible example to use because I know they were joking. But there were so many that were so razor thin close to this that were not joking that I saw just in a simple perusal, even just within my notifications in the tiny subset, the small offshore sandbar that was the island of this experience.
Oh God.
Somebody I wrote what I thought was clearly a joke. I was not making a claim in any direction. I just simply made a joke. And one person actually saw it exactly how I meant it, where they were like, essentially saying, you're going to go write a bunch of Kai Lang fanfic and be able to use Troy's voice.
I 100% knew what you meant.
I was like, that's all I was picturing is like just silliness. Because that's, to me, Twitter is like,
you were trolling your friend and you were pretending that you were going to make him say stupid shit. I mean, that was really clear. And
that was all my stake in it. But my favorite was just all these people being like, oh man, there goes, I guess I used to like your music or whatever. And there was one that I saw where, again, I know they were kidding, but they said, somebody goes, dude, he was kidding. And they go, oh, in that case, Journey's good again. And like, look, I actually laughed, but I also was like, the thing is, there's a lot of folks out there that's not that wild of a take that they would have. It was like, this poisons everything that you're attached to because I've decided this is inherently poisonous. And I'm like, but that's not engaging with anything. That's like a scarlet A, So
engaging is one thing and asking questions is one thing. I do agree with you that should be the default state. But surely there's a point where you have engaged, you have investigated, you've looked into it, you've looked around, you've asked questions, maybe if you have a direct line to someone, where you've done all of that and you go, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't really, there's definitely, like, I can think of like actors who I don't particularly want to see in movies anymore because I know what their opinion of Jews is, right? Like that comes up more than it should.
Yeah.
Like, there's
I mean, that's an interesting, that's kind of an interesting.
And by the way, Troy has a wonderful opinion of all people. I
love the
Jews.
Jews.
Point that out. I just want to contextualize what I just said. But like I do.
I celebrate those holidays too, just because
I can understand someone who was so upset to find out that Troy was working in the NFT space that does have a negative impact on
that's something that I distinctly want to point out. I do want to distinctly point out. And
I think it's reasonable. I think that's probably true.
Yeah, there's a feather that's been floating around this particular topic for a while, so I want to address it. It reminds me of the "Say It Ain't So, Joe." Well, if you're not familiar, "Say It Ain't So" it was a phrase that a kid said to Shoeless Joe Jackson after learning that Shoeless Joe had thrown the World Series, and I think that the reason why that became such a phrase is because it tainted that kid. That kid became everybody for about baseball because it tainted something that was considered America's pastime and this holy, wonderful and pure thing. So there are a lot of people, and I was even pulling up one who said, "I'm really disappointed." And man, disappointed. I can take anger and I can take a lot of other vitriolic words, but. When someone says like you're the reason why I got into this business, which first of all, if I can inspire someone else to tell their story in however many ways, that is my ultimate dream. That's my ultimate goal more than anything, even more than Daredevil. But if I in turn do something that in some way pulls not necessarily me down a peg, but in some way changes their perspective and disillusions them from their own passion, man. That's me again, antithetical to everything that I want to do. So to those people as well, I want those are the tweets that kind of raised above the din more than the others and cut through the mire more than others. And to those, I appreciate you very succinctly and cogently expressing how you felt about that, and that you had the balls to express that to me. That says a lot. I've telling someone that you like their work is easy. Telling someone that you're disappointed in them is really, really hard. And so if you did do that, behind the screen name of anonymity or not, I do appreciate that. And I want you to know I do hear that. I just always want to encourage civil and an informed conversation. And I just don't know, man. Sometimes it's like, it's sometimes it's just not worth it. And this may be a situation where it's just not worth it. Like what I was trying to do and the dreams that I had to take this and what this could have meant may kind of fall by the wayside, and we'll talk about that offline because it doesn't matter. But
I'll give you a good faith promise that I'll help you find another way to do this without the NFT involvement. I'll make it my personal mission to help you with that for sure.
Thanks, man.
If that's something you want to do.
Yeah, I always want to find ways to help people. Mm-hmm.
I totally think it's doable. I think there's a lot of places that would love to help you with that and wouldn't be using technology that
isn't inherently untrustworthy as part of it. Is that I think that you could probably do this in a way that, like, if you two were to do it in a way that is in the interest of protecting creators and protecting voice actors as well. Again, this does feel like a conversation that should be had elsewhere. But
sorry, apologies, I shouldn't have gone there.
It's okay. Somebody being tied to NFTs to me is inherently, I'm like, I don't trust this technology. It's trying to take people's money. But yeah, that seems like a separate conversation.
To kind of tag on to what Mike was saying, I by no means mean for this to be. This is more. Do not be surprised by this. I want to keep the focus on me. And kind of like how I right
you the Troy Baker.
While I'm trending, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Your 23,000.7 tweets.
Oh my god!
You have more than Pete Davidson.
Oh shit! And almost as many tattoos.
I mean, I tell you, who's breathing a sigh of relief is Joe Rogan today.
Oh no shit! He was like, I don't know who the fuck Troy Baker is.
He is actually he's still at the top. To be fair.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But no, to piggyback off what Mike says, like this is about how I fucked up and how I could have framed this better and to let everybody out there know if you're watching this, and hopefully you are, so you always give someone an opportunity to make amends, as it were, or at least hear another side of it that hopefully can make you, more informed, more empathetic. Maybe a little bit, is that this is about me. So I do want to be very careful that I'm not I'm keeping the reticle on me.
Yeah.
So that's smart, right?
Yes. Troy, can I ask, like, in relation to all of this, like, what do you personally know about NFTs? How much knowledge on them do you have?
I learned a lot more today.
More after our chat.
I'm doing the Lord's work there, Mike. What do you know now, Troy?
What I do know now is that I see the appeal and I see the disdain. I see both angles of how someone could look at this and go, well, this is a wonderful tool to be able to use. I don't think that they are inherently bad. I think that very few things in this world are inherently bad. Talk to Oppenheimer and he will say the same thing. It's the ability to use something for good. It could have powered that energy could have powered the entire world.
Yeah, I was like, he sort of knew it was bad.
when he saw how it was being used, absolutely. He was said, behold, I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. But the reason why he was doing it was to hopefully provide an energy source that could sustainably power the entire world. So I think that being able to, I can't wait for people to take that one out of context.
I see the kid.
You were this close, Baker. You were this close.
I actually don't think that's an unreasonable analogy. Given
Of course you don't, Austin.
Given the vitriol surrounding it, it may as well be on the same level. That's what's interesting about it. Like,
is that true? Like, do you genuinely believe there's the amount of vitriol around Troy as there was around
NFT
nuclear weapon?
No. I mean, NFTs are so ideologically polarizing that, and crypto by extension, that there are things where, like, no matter what someone says about it, it's sort of like it gets pulled into a vortex of I don't hear anything you're saying. It's just, this is
again,
all
I think you're right, and I think that's
nuclear power is treated the same way, even though
I don't love this parallel and would kind of like to move away from it just in general. But I don't disagree with you that I think today, after post this tweet, I think talking about NFTs is going to be even harder. And my stance is still that I currently really dislike the way they are being implemented. I'm very against it, but I'm always interested in new technology. And I'm always interested to see what people can do with the blockchain. I had played an early blockchain based game and was interested in the skin economy in that game and what they were going to do with it. And it's gotten to a point now where it does feel like we can't even have those conversations.
That's all that I'm saying.
And I don't
what
disagree
you just
with
said
that.
is 100%. I just +1 to that comment, because
allow me to -1 to that. I think all NFTs are terrible. We shouldn't do them.
I think I'm in agreement regarding NFTs specifically.
That's not what she said, though.
It's blockchain more so that.
Sorry, I was speaking facetious. I think until the technology can be done more safely, and until it can do something that regular server tech can't, I'm
in agreement. Right now, it serves. I don't believe that it serves any function, but I don't like the idea that we can't have the conversations about potential functions whatsoever. But I'm in agreement. I do not currently think that it serves any beneficial purpose. Even the public ledger is not something that I think is enough.
What do you think are good ways to move the conversation forward? I'm just curious as we wrap up.
Fuck me. What is a good way to move a conversation about NFTs forward?
Yeah.
Stop.
Have it off Twitter.
Well, no. I'm just saying. You said I do. The thing that you hate about this, I don't want to mischaracterize what you said, but is that this kind of hurt the conversation about it. So, what do you think can help the conversation?
The entire reframe of the system as they exist right now, they have a negative impact on the environment and serve to make people money and do not serve a lot of public interest. And I think the reframing of that, like, you can take this concept and rethink it, and I'm sure that somebody will in a way that is not as negatively impactful. I think that is the solution to having reasonable conversations about it. Whereas, I mean, maybe I said to someone today, it was like, how you feeling about all this? I was like, maybe Troy, to use the analogy that we're using that I hate, nuking himself will make some of these AAA publishers look at it and go, ooh, we probably shouldn't do that. And I was like, that could be a plus.
Like, cynically, and forgetting that, my friend's involved, I think, Troy, you did more to help halt the NFT.
You may have killed it.
In gaming today
like
than anyone has in history. You may have genuinely saved a large chunk of rainforest.
That's what I was like. Publishers might have seen it, and now we'll be like,
great. Now he thinks he's the Messiah. Great. He didn't already have a big fucking head.
Troy, savior of worlds.
But it is entirely possible that this going this big and getting this backlash will have made. Just sit the fuck down.
Oh god, this is the worst possible outcome.
What have we done?
Yeah.
We've created
you did this.
Maybe I am
make Jesus.
No, stop speaking. Stop. It may have made people who are very involved in the space or even curious about it go like, oh shit, this is why this is bad. People really don't like this. We should back out. And again, I think the thing that helps the conversation is a massive pivot off of the way that the technology is currently run.
Yeah, here's what
Ultimately, the conversation's fueled by the facts of the technology. You have to change the facts in order to make it a positive
Yes, that's a
conversation.
much more succinct way of saying what I was trying to say.
Thank you.
Change the facts.
You did draft one. It was very
Yeah.
good. I took draft two.
Yeah.
I punched it up a bit. Now we just
Appreciate
need to get someone to put a joke in there, and we're fine.
Awesome.
I do have to say that even though there were some fun moments in what would have been, this was supposed to be a disclaimer, and I think this is probably going to be the episode.
Yeah.
What would have been the previous episode that was done
That has
Tuesday?
to go up sometime.
I might
There's
still
some-
The
publish
lost
it.
episode.
Yeah.
There's some fun ones.
I think hold it back. Use that's
Yeah.
add some
the
mystique.
mid-season break. There were some fun moments in it, but I do appreciate this is why I think we started this whole podcast conversation thing is for four people from disparate views and sometimes disparate locations to be able to have a conversation that all four hopefully walk away from. I know I'm walking away feeling more enlightened and lighter. So
well, thank you for
I
talking to us
appreciate you
about it,
guys.
Troy. Like, I was also worried that like talking to you about this would potentially be bad for your mental health. It's like, I don't know how if this is good
Gotta
for
lean
you.
into it, man.
I thought that you would want to do that regardless, to be honest. But thank you for talking about it. I think this is an important thing for us to talk about.
Information is key. I was just talking to this about with my physical therapist. Is like not having information is the worst thing that you can do. Having information is empowering and critical. So I always want information.
Yeah, I can only echo the sentiment that my favorite responses to this podcast that I see from people is when they are like, it's nice that there exists little corners of the internet where people can disagree or not even disagree as if minds are made up, but just explore an idea in a collective way where we're each throwing our incomplete picture of the story
Like
on the middle of
Oppenheimer.
the table.
That's
Well, I
close,
thought so, at
Bithel.
least.
This close. Discuss it with me, baby.
No, it is cool, and I think it speaks a
hell.
lot to your character, Troy, that you want to talk about it and you want to talk about it in a public way. I think that's
Thanks,
kudos
guys.
to you.
I appreciate all of you, and I feel like I want to cut this on Oppenheimer. There.
Don't you fucking dare.
It's like a bad idea.
Don't you dare. Will you do the thing?
I haven't introed the show.
Well, we can start recording in a minute.
Yeah, we'll start recording. We'll
Yeah,
redo it.
for the record, I thought that I was popping into the last 2 minutes of a thing, so I just in no way recorded my audio.
I have
So,
your audio, so that should
all
be
right,
okay.
just as a
I have
heads
your
up.
audio.
We all have your audio.
Hello,
And
everyone.
for 3 Ethereum. No, go on.
Yeah, fuck off. Not you two. Jesus Christ. Troy's influence. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Play, Watch, Listen. I'm Alanah. I'm a video game writer. That is Mike Bithell. He is a video game director. That's Austin Winter. He's a video game composer. And that's Troy Baker, who's trending on Twitter.
Oh.
We will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Bye.